Hey guys, welcome to another video. For those of you who don't know, my name is David. I am a student here at MIT studying architecture. And for today's video, I wanted to talk about the idea of iteration over perfection. And I actually had this idea while working today. For the past week, I've been on spring break here at MIT. And a couple professors and students reached out to me and some other students to work on a brick pavilion as part of the MIT Artfinity Festival. It's an event that celebrates the arts from MIT. And so we were in charge of building a brick pavilion. And so for the past 2 days, I've been spending my days just stacking bricks, and I've been very sore. And right now I just came back a few hours ago. It's pretty late now, so we'll see how this video goes. It's different from the other videos I've done, which were usually done during the day. So right now it's nighttime, and my brain is a bit fuzzy, not as clear as it is or it was in the other videos. But decided I still wanted to make this video because I truly enjoy doing it. And it's also nice for me to kind of reflect on the days, or the day specifically. So the idea of iteration over perfection, it's actually an idea I had yesterday, but it really strengthened itself today while I was working. Another way to think about it is the idea of reps, the same way you do reps at the gym. I think we're so trained to think that everything you should do should be perfect from the start. It should be something that has no flaws and that you're proud of from the first shot you try. And in school, that's how we're trained for the most part. In traditional education, we're based on grades. If you study well for the exam, you get a good grade, and then a good GPA, and it means you succeeded. If you worked on a project, you also get graded on the project, either assignments, team projects, anything. And I think this idea of having a grade for something is inherently flawed. And you see this especially with, or the contrary, if you talk to anyone who is in industry or is building a startup. Some people here at MIT, myself included, have worked on startups, and there is no right or wrong. There is no right answer, unless you are a scientist and you need to have the right answer, and it has to be replicable, and you can do it many times again. But for the most part, and for most people, not all of us are going to end up being scientists or innovators in that sense. Most of us are going to work on our business. We're going to be employees working for a company, and in the day-to-day life of industry, I've worked in some companies and some startups, and there's no right answer. It's just a series of iterations and versions and projects that are ongoing, and that sometimes fail, that sometimes succeed. But ultimately, you make a living by just learning, growing, trying, and failing a bunch of times. And so I think if let's say you're interested in building your startup, or if you're interested in starting a YouTube channel, or making an online business, or moving to another city, or start to write online, any sort of ideas that you have, or thoughts, or dreams, or aspirations, or goals, those are or can be projects that you decide to take on. And a project just starts by just starting. You just have to do something. The same way I'm doing these videos, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am just putting myself out there. I have never done something like this. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I technically started a project years ago in my mind, just thinking of what I could be doing. Would it be a, vlog style video? Would it be a journaling video like I'm doing? Is it more like I'm teaching something? Is it like highly edited, raw and uncut video? you can like just think and ponder and build it all in your head. But the moment you actually do it is when you really start. Sure, you might, plan out some things in your head or on paper, and you might tell your friends, like, I'm going to be doing this or be doing that. But ultimately, you just have to try. And so that's okay. And I think that is why, and that is something I think that is really comforting, I think, for myself. And I hope it would be for you as well. Comforting because you don't have to strive for perfection. You just have to do something and, iterate from there and iterate. And you just have to have a first prototype. Treat it like this is like a startup. You have the term MVP, most viable product. You just have to have a prototype of some sort. You get some feedback. Maybe people comment on it. Maybe people tell you, or you show it to your friends and they tell you like, oh, maybe add these, maybe add this. For example, my brother, who I showed my videos to, he told me like, oh, you should maybe put some timestamps on or chapters in your videos so people can like scroll and see like a table of contents when they're scrolling through the video. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I didn't think about that. So I'm trying to figure it out, but ultimately you just need to do something, and then you will naturally just improve, you will learn, and you will just make whatever project you want better. And so the same way with reps at the gym. If you're working out, what do? You obviously plan things out. Maybe you have an outline for your routine, but then you just have to sit there or stand up, whatever, and then just do the reps. You have to take the weights, lift it up and down, move it around. You take some rest in between, and you just repeat and repeat and repeat. And then you do that the next day, and then you just get better. A lot of people overcomplicate these things by having complex routines. What kind of diet should I get? Or should I be on? What kind of equipment should I get? What type of workout? They're thinking of all these complex movements as if they're like professional bodybuilders that, want a specific detailed workout that targets this specific muscle group, but they just haven't even just started yet, That's the kind of stuff you think about when you're like years in the game, or you've been working out for a while. So why think about these things? It's like you're thinking of the wrong things, So, there's so much information out there, and sometimes people you'll see online some tips here and there. Get into this, get into that, ketogenic, or I don't even know, like all the diets you can be on, or what kind of equipment you can get. Ultimately, they're trying to sell you on some stuff for themselves. So maybe don't listen to them. But take it or leave it. But I'm just telling you to just do something. It doesn't matter. It could even be like a very shitty video that gets no views, or it could be stupid product that nobody wants to buy that you publish online. But it might, on the bright side, if it fails, it might end up being just a really cool product or a project that you can put in your portfolio. You can look back at, maybe show it to some people, and someone might be impressed by it, And also there's one lesson I've learned throughout the years, is that there is always someone a few steps behind you in some areas of life. We're all, if you think of like life as a video game, we are all leveling up our skills and getting experience in certain domains. And so we're not, I might be like, let's say level 25 in cooking, and level 50 in design, but level 10 in business, or there are different ranges, and that's an oversimplification, obviously. But if you think of it like that, everybody is at different levels in different phases, and you might have advantages because of where you were born. You might have advantages because of your family status, or the city you are in, or your genetic, just the way your genetic code functions. Maybe you just have an aptitude for mathematics that, people around you don't have. Maybe you've always been talented in drawing or sketching and you're very creative naturally. Maybe you've just been surrounded by so many creative individuals, so you're just been exposed to it at a young age, And there's always people that are going to be a bit behind you that you can teach to. So you yourself can offer that sort of service and help teach people. And you can turn that into a product. You can turn that into a service or an idea or a project, a business even. So don't think that you don't have anything. You definitely have something valuable to share. You just have to sit down and actually think about it and reflect and be very, very pragmatic about it. Like, don't just say that you're gonna, start a cooking or like a restaurant because you love the idea of cooking, but you've never tried cooking, or you've cooked like 3 times to your friends and they've just given you like mixed feedback, On the other hand, if you cook a lot and you try out and you experiment and you show it to your friends and people tell you like, oh, this is really good, or they give you advice and you get better at it, the fact that you're already doing it means you are on the right track, And that idea of just trying and getting the reps in ultimately leads to the idea of momentum. And that's interesting because it's also something that it kind of clicked today. It's this very silly example or analogy. But momentum is when you're in the groove, when you're in motion and things just naturally pick up. You get some speed and velocity if things are already in motion. Whereas things are still, it's much harder to get that momentum in the beginning. For example, today, when we were like picking up bricks and stacking them, we had 2 locations, a place where we were like stacking up bricks in a kind of module of some sort of like a 3x5 row of bricks. And then we'd put each module on these carts. We would stack them with like 2 stories high, and then we would push them, me and my buddy Jonah, and then we'd push them through the site of our project, and then we'd take the bricks and then drop it where the installation would be built. And, the cart was pretty heavy. There's a lot of bricks on there. And on the side, there was like parts where it was, there were small slopes or more flat. But ultimately, every time we do it, and we probably, went back and forth like over like 100 times in the past 2 days. Every time we would start, we would struggle the most. It took us so much force to just push that initial cart because the cart was still. So we had to, give it like a little boost. But once the cart was like moving and we had some momentum, it was a breeze. We were hanging out, we're talking, we're just chatting, we're like having fun moving it. But in the beginning, every time we'd stop the cart and restart for some, if it got stuck or anything, we'd have to give a lot of energy and a lot of push just to get it to move. So that's the analogy of for yourself. Like if you realize, if let's say you meditate like for 3 days and then you stop the next day or for the next 2 or 3 days, you will, the 4th day will be very difficult. It will be very difficult for you to get back into it and just get in the flow state. Same way if you work out, if you stop after a while, like it's the day after, it just becomes really difficult. So treat it like in everything. You want to develop habits that become like habitual, like just supernatural, like brushing your teeth, waking up in the morning and making yourself coffee if you drink coffee. So these things are habits for you. So why not treat other parts of your life like these habits? So it's just a matter of reps. The more reps, I think it ultimately it's a numbers game. The more, you can even use the 10,000 hours analogy that like you become a master once you reach 10,000 hours. Obviously it's a arbitrary number. It's just for simplicity, but the principle is still there, is that you need to just spend time on the things you want to get good at in order to get the results you want. If you want to make a lot of money, read books on money, talk to people, listen to podcasts. And that comes down ultimately to another idea, which is your environment. Because people might ask, okay, well, how do I stick with the habit? It's easier said than done. It's easy to say like, oh, you just have to do it every day. But the reality is like, life's difficult. We all have things in our life. Sometimes we have 9-to-5 jobs. We're tired at the end of the day. Maybe we're students. Maybe we don't have a lot of money. There's a lot of reasons why it's difficult to change those habits or to develop those new habits and to stick with it for a long amount of time. It's easy for me to say like, oh, just start doing it and then just keep doing it many, many times. But it's the reason why we all try and we all fail and stop and then we do it again is because it's difficult. But for me, I think one thing I learned, and I've also heard around, it's not a novel idea, it's just something I've collected around and kind of formed in my own way of absorbing that knowledge is all about environment. And what do I mean by that? Ultimately, there's you as the individual, there's your environment where you're in, and that environment can be a mix of the city you're in, the village you're in, the people around you, your parents, your siblings, your friends, teachers, people in your social media. It could even be your phone, the content you consume. It's everything in which that surrounds you, both physically and digitally now, because we live in a digital world now. And then there's you. So I think there's you, and then there's the environment. And ultimately, the environment you cannot change really, in the sense that, or you can't have a control over, in the sense that like the environment, those people will naturally, react to whatever thing you say, just because they're individuals like you. They have their own world view. They themselves have, their own issues and problems and personal things the same way you do. So you can't control it. You really cannot have any whatsoever, what control that you like on them. So, but you do have yourself, and yourself is the only thing you can really control, is how you react to these people. How do you react to your environment, the media, what happens outside? But what you can do is you can have a control over which environment you decide to immerse yourself in. You can call it like micro environments. So it could be the city you live in. If you're able to move, if there's a better location you want to live in, you can definitely move there. If, let's say, finances work out, or if you can manage to find a job there, or some way to just live there. There's always ways to do it. There's also the things you consume on social media. I think that's the easiest one you can do, is just block or delete the stuff you don't need. Like I deleted Instagram, I think like 8 months ago, and I've stopped using it, and it's been like the best thing for me. I've just been like spending more time with real people and just meeting them, directly, and asking them to hang out and have coffee and spend the day together proactively, instead of just seeing their stories and replying to it because that's what I see. So there's things you can control, like what you consume in terms of content. One thing I love is our podcasts. I think it's the best thing, especially if you're going on walks, or if you're just like transiting, or you just put in your headphones. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's podcasts, depends on the mood. But podcasts that educate me and that teach me, and with people that I respect and that I actually admire, or that I want to learn from. You're basically surrounding yourself with just good energy or like ideas that you resonate with. You know, there's so much content out there. It's not for everyone. You want to select the things you're interested in and that you know that will help you grow in your own way. And so books are a good way. Even the people you hang out with, selecting like people and keeping them close to you and you can learn from and grow with them. Those are some other ways. And ultimately you're just curating your environment. You're just trying to be in a space where everything around you is healthy, helps you grow, makes you happy, makes you feel like you're, not being dragged down. And it even starts at like in your room or in your home, wherever you live. Is if you take care of the space you live in, your local physical environment, if you take the trash out, if you do the dishes, make your bed in the morning, like these like really simple habits makes your environment cleaner, and makes you think in a clearer way as well. And you'll be able to just surround yourself with ideas and people and things that just make you grow as an individual. And so when you have these things figured out, it is so much easier to do the hard thing, which is developing the new habits, But you can't do these things if the first habit to begin with, the first habits you begin with and that are around you are not executed in the right way. That is, the fundamental thing is just to focus on the foundation, the core things, which is just your surrounding, your environment first. Focus on that. Keep like having a healthy sleeping schedule, a good exercise routine, socialize, be in a good mind space, take care of your physical space, and that even translates to taking care of yourself, the things you wear, the way you treat your body, like, all these are like part of your environment, your physical space, where you are in the world. And then you can start to add the challenges of like developing a new habit or working on a new project, sticking to it and then trying and failing, because it is much more easy. It's much more easier if you're in a good mind space when things go wrong and you fail. And ultimately everybody fails. If you try something difficult or new, you will fail, and it's normal. You just have to keep doing it, getting up and just start again, new project, talk to other people, consume other information. We're just like different versions of ourselves. If you think about it, you yourself are an iteration. If I personally think about myself, like just like 2 or 3 years ago, I was a completely different person. I thought differently. My accent was probably different. English is not even my first language. I sometimes still struggle with it. I'll forget the words, I'll fumble some things. My mother tongue is French. I'm from Montreal, so I grew up speaking French for the most part. And even in Montreal, we speak like a French English. It's like a slang that we have. So like, I remember like 5 years ago, my friend told me like, or was it something like 4 or 5 years ago, he jokingly said like, oh wow, your English really improved since university. And I thought it was funny because it's true. I used to be so self-conscious about my English. It used to be something I was not really comfortable with, because most of my early childhood education was mainly done in French. In my household, I speak French with my parents and my brother. So I it was a skill, like a core fundamental skill, speaking English, that I had to practice, and that completely changed how I think. That changed how I see the world, how I consume information now. Most of the things I consume now are in English. I even think in English. I think for certain things, like if I count, I count in French, but for most things I do it in English. So that takes time. You become a different version of yourself, a different iteration of yourself. But that's an example of, the things that you might not realize now, because life is a, forward facing activity. You can only go through life going forward, but you only learn looking backwards. You only make the connections if you take some time to stop and to look back at what you've done and connecting the dots. And then you will learn so much more about yourself if you take the time to do that. You will notice trends in the decisions you've made, maybe some subconsciously or maybe consciously. But these are the things that help you guide yourself for the decisions you make in the future, or that you want to make in the present as well. So I'll leave it at that. The core message of this video is, don't seek perfection, just aim for iteration. Just do the reps, start today if you haven't, and then just stick to it. And if it's hard to stick to it, it's probably because there's stuff in your life that's, in the way. So try maybe fixing these things, or at least attempting to, kind of putting these things or solving these things first. And I know that sometimes it's difficult. It's easy for me to say that there's things that are, there's so many moments in your life that, are high emotion, like high stress. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's emotional, relationship wise, you went through a breakup, or there's family issues. But the thing is that everybody goes through these things. You're not the only one. And so if you have this victim mindset, this victim mentality that everything wrong is happening to you, and, the world didn't give you the things that you deserve, or that is a flawed way of seeing things, because even the rich people have issues, like it's not, money will not solve your problems. I know some people who don't have a lot of money and they're the happiest people in the world. And I've also seen people who have money and they're also the happiest people in the world. So there's no correlation there. You just have to solve your problems. And then if you want to get the things you want, if there's things you want out of life, you can get those things. You can really do it. It's just sometimes people put this mentality that like, oh, life is not treating me this way. And, it's easy for me to say, I don't want to say like everybody can have a fulfilled life, and, like it's easy, it's simple. But nowadays the opportunities has never been more accessible. It's never been easier to just start a channel, start a business online, make a living doing the things you love. Like the number of people who do that, and that, they teach things that are super niche. They make a profile on social media, or, they do consulting for, I don't know, like the most random things. So we're living in an age where, it's going to become more and more common for people to, leave their jobs, or to, just do the things they want to do instead of just working for something or for someone that doesn't really value their unique self. So anyways, I'm going to stop there. I think I'm kind of rambling. It's kind of late. I'm noticing that Yeah, sometimes, especially at night, maybe I'm going into too many tangents, but I'm just speaking my mind. Hopefully you resonate with something. I'm sure there was a lot of stuff in there that just did not make sense, or maybe it's just too confusing because my thoughts are not clear as clear as they are in the morning. My body is like slowly trying to wind down and go to sleep. But I felt like I needed to share that message in a very authentic and imperfect way. I mean, it kind of makes sense and it kind of fits with the whole theme of like, don't strive for perfection, just have an iteration of something, of an idea, and then just put it out there. Don't be ashamed. Yeah, it takes courage. You might get fun of, you might get, yeah, you might be made fun of. But you just have to try and see from there. So yeah, so that's it for me. I hope this has helped you or given you some ideas or some inspiration of some sort, or, you know, taught you something. But that's what I think. Yeah, on that note, I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care and peace.